failure isn't the end. Failure is your first attempt. And then you take your second attempt, then you take your third attempt. You might take 100 attempts. As long as you keep going, you haven't failed. Imagine waking up, you're not done yet, mother.
He says, I'm not a freak. I'm just a guy who believes in himself more than most.
Most of us put limiting beliefs on ourselves. It's the ability to push through those beliefs. Welcome back to another episode of The Power of Pages. I go by Ty.
Yes, Mr. Fly, what's going on, people?
This month we are this episode we're reviewing Never Finished by David Goggins. And I'm just going to let Chris go through on this one, Mr. Fly. Firstly, why did you pick this book? Shoot.
Boy, not everybody. David Goggins is a very inspirational person. I think you'd agree with that. I think anyone that's read his first book that we did a review on would also agree with that. And for me, I mean, as we know, or you may or may not know, I'm doing a half marathon in a few days now. So his running kind of linked up. I thought, I need to get into that Goggins mentality. His never say die, his no BS state of mind. Do you know what I mean? Plus, as a business owner, as a person, whatever, you sometimes you need to build on your resilience. And I think this book, because I got the book on its release, which was, earlier on this year. But then I was like, I'm not going to read it until, because for me, I have to be in a certain state of mind to read this book. When it's like, I need to be in that state of mind. And I was like, yeah, I'm here now. I need it. I need that Goggins energy. I need that Goggins. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
The Goggins. Yeah, so I mean, I think you said, anyone that watched our first review on Can't Hurt Me, that book, David Goggins' first book, we both loved it. And we both loved it. So I was happy to read this book because, after the first book, I thought, this book is going to be good too.
Yeah.
And so you picked it because you're doing your half marathon. By the way, there's a link in the description box. Anyone that can donate to support Fit for Life's youth, they're raising money for the youth programs in West London to help support the community. So please donate. I'll plug that just, before we get into it. But is there anything you wanted to start off about?
No, you know what, right? Yeah, I mean, bro, I'll try and keep this down, but boy, where do you start firstly? But I was a bit tentative to read it because, where I love the first book so much, and I don't want to talk too much about the first one, but I didn't want to read this and it be not live up to my expectations. Obviously, I've got a high expectation now of Goggins as a writer. So, but there were so many chapters. But the chapter that when I was going through my notes today, and the way I do it, the mental lab. I know I'm jumping, that's chapter 3. I've missed out 2 chapters, but for me, that chapter was just was dope, man. It was just so sick.
Well, let's start from the beginning and we'll come on to chapter 3.
Yeah.
Because there was a story from the start that I really loved about rats. And I love this story because it starts off by saying, the rats are thrown into the water in a tank and they drown after 15 minutes. So they're trying to survive and they drown after 15 minutes. But the next time, the scientists or whoever is testing this theory, just before they're about to drown, they take the rats out and save them before they die. So, they wait for them to recover. They let their heart rate go back to normal, back to resting. And then they throw them back in again. Now, of course, this is, cruel. Depending on your ethos towards animals.
Yeah, no, it's cruel. It's cool.
So, maybe a little bit cruel. But this time, when the scientist, man or female, whatever, threw them back in, the rats swam for 60 hours before they drowned, on average. 60 hours. So the first time, 15 minutes, they gave up, they died. The second time, they lasted 60 hours. I don't know the difference in that. What's that? Time,
that's ridiculous, mate. 24 hours a day.
120, 240 times the amount of time. Times 240. So they put in 240 times the amount of effort because they were saved the first time. And this kind of goes on to talk about what kept them going. Like, was it hope? Was it determination? The fact that they had been saved before, that hope of being saved again, is that what kept them going? And I've just thought this was a great, a great story, because it goes to teach us that when we experience things, there's levels, we think we've reached our limit, but actually we probably haven't, we can keep on going. And that gassed me up, man. That was a great way to start the book. Great way to start the book.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I think, and it's funny because this is like, I think it's a Navy SEAL thing actually, because I know I've watched 1 or 2 of his kind of interviews and stuff, and they always talk about this, that you've got at least 40% left when you think you've got nothing left in the tank, and that's, I think, a Navy SEAL thing. But and he does actually speak about this in the first book as well. But it relates to that, when no matter what you're doing, when I'm doing sessions, I'll always, not always, but sometimes, if it's coming to the end of the session and people think it's coming over, I'll make them hold a plank for an extra minute over the session, because they'll be, I can't do nothing, I can't do anything. No, you can. Look, you just did it. So you think you're finished, you could do so much more. So that relates to that scenario, but you can relate that to anything. So it's those are the good messages that you get. Like, that's just a message there. Obviously, for the rats, it was that hope that they've been saved before, so they was expecting someone to come and save them again. Unfortunately for them, that never happened. But look how much more it drew out of them. They swam for a long time, a lot longer.
240 times, if I'm correct with my quick maths. 15 minutes to 60 hours. Wow. And do you know what? There were so many gems to take from this book. And in chapter 1, there was actually something that I took from it that I didn't expect to take from this book, which was gratitude. Because for those that know David Goggins' story, he's had a very, very traumatic childhood. And he draws upon that childhood to fuel him for his for his life, basically. And it just got me thinking about my childhood. And in comparison to David Goggins, I've had an amazing childhood. And in fact, my perception of my childhood has been amazing. And it just made me sit and think on it and just think, wow, like I'm actually really lucky.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect to get, those kind of emotions from this book. This book is more like, let's go. But it made me sit down and think, wow, like, yeah, I'm really lucky.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because it's kind of like, it's quite biographical, but at the same time, so he talks about stuff that's happening in his life and his history and, what he's currently doing and what he plans to do. But then it's tied in with his mindset, which kind of pushes itself through, because the way he writes it, the stories that he tells. Do you know what I mean? So, and one thing I like, because I think when you think about like David Goggins, is like, you think of like a very alpha leader, loud, confident, never scared, never self-doubting himself, nothing like that. But he just showed quite a lot of vulnerability in the book as well. And he's done that prior, because his whole story, he explains about his vulnerability in the first one and the second one, and about, you kind of see, like, if you look at the front of the book, you see he's in good shape, he's ripped and whatnot. But then it's like, there's the other side to that, when he's running, when he's injured, when like after he races, the way his body shuts down, literally, like, which he talks about, which is like, that's very honest to share that kind of stuff. Like, if you want to find out what I'm talking about, I suggest you read the book. But it's like, that's things like that. It's like two sides. So it's like, this isn't a person. I think a lot of time now, you see a lot of people online, they're kind of playing a character. They're a caricature of themselves. Consistent. They don't show any human sort of qualities. It's just kind of trying to be this particular type of person. And I don't really get that from him. And I think that's why so many people that's definitely what I like about him. And I'm sure that's what a lot of people like about him as well.
Yeah, I think he humanizes himself a lot in this book. He makes you realize that he's a human being, that he's a normal person, even though he's gone on to do some incredible things and things that people wouldn't consider normal and some would consider crazy or extreme. But actually, he humanizes himself a lot in the book by sharing, his personal stories and also his normal stories that maybe some people can relate to.
There's a bit, sorry, just to relate to that quickly, a bit when he's talking about it's further down the book, but someone says to him, like, okay, like, you're just an animal, like you're a hero or something like that. And he's just like, I'm not a freak. I'm just a guy who believes in himself more than most. So that's honestly, you know, he just believes in himself more than most people do. Like, it sounds quite simple, but when you think about it, again, when
Say
you talk
that
about the
sentence again,
percentages,
man.
some people might believe, yeah, he says, I'm not a freak. I'm just a guy who believes in himself more than most. So you have to actually, it doesn't sound like deep what's being said. You know, he just believes in himself more. So if he's broken down, he still believes that he can keep on going in a different kind of scenario. Do you know what I mean? Where most people, not all people, but most people might take that as a defeat. They might be looking for a way out. You know, and that's inspiring, man. That's inspiring.
Yeah, he's very, very, very inspiring, and I think there was lots of gems that I took from this. Some that I probably won't even implement, but just hearing them was actually quite refreshing, or I found a good tactic. And one was when he said, you know, tape record yourself with your excuses, and how ridiculous they sound. And it's actually quite funny because when I talk to people about what they want to do, or for example, say someone was saying they're not going to go for a run, they've decided they're going to go for a run, they've told me they're going to go for a run, and then they come and say, actually, no, I'm not going to go for a run today because of X, Y, Z, whatever. But actually, them telling that to me has made them realize, oh, actually, these are really crap excuses.
Yeah.
And not everyone has someone else that they can bounce that off of to realize those excuses.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, so tape recording yourself and recording the excuses, playing them back to yourself, and then you hear it and you're like, actually, these are just excuses.
It's a bit soft, yeah. It's a bit soft, yeah.
You're being soft.
Yeah.
And I love that, man.
No, it's like, I think that's a good, I don't know if I would do it, because when I said that, I was laughing, and I was like, that's definitely something he would do, like, would come across. And I was like, but it's true, because if I say to you, if I give you a soft excuse, I'm hearing it, I'm vocalizing it, and I can hear how soft it sounds, but in my head, it could sound very rational. So it's more about just vocalizing that excuse, you know what I mean? So yeah, man. Yeah, no, it's good. It's funny, man.
Yeah.
It's funny, some of the things that, like, his approach to things is again, I just use that word inspiring, because again, you look at someone who's got, again, we haven't even spoken about his health problems. Like, he's got so many health problems, like so many injuries and whatnot. And it's just like, still finds a way, you know, and it doesn't even always end up, you know, there's failure in the book as well. Like, there's failure. I mean, he's failed on, we'll get there eventually, but so it's just
I think I want to touch on that word failure, actually, because he doesn't see it as failure, which is what I love. That's what I love, because, you know, failure isn't the end. Failure is, he puts it, is your first attempt. And then you take your second attempt, then you take your third attempt. You might take 100 attempts. As long as you keep going, you haven't failed. And the way he sees things is, it's not failure, it's just his first attempt. And that mindset is incredible.
That's a really good one to take away, to be fair, because again, the way you speak about things, the way you think about things and internalize things, that's a really good one to take away, because it's true. It's only fail. You only fail when you stop. But, you know, when he's talking about in the run that he did, the Moab 240, I think it was.
Yeah.
The first year, it didn't go so well for him. But again, first attempt. And even during that, when he realized he wasn't going to be able to complete it properly, they started already planning for the second attempt, for the second year. Right, let's start doing recce, let's take notes and plan out a route XYZ. So yeah, that's a really good way, and that can apply to anything, literally anything in your day-to-day life.
Yeah, absolutely. There was another thing. I mean, there's so many things that he said, but he said, when you're going through, when you're deciding to do something, or you're deciding to give up, don't decide based on emotion. And I really like that, because sometimes we let our emotions override our logical thought processes. And his phrase was, says, simply pause and use logic and consciousness to decide whether this is, you know, reasonable to continue. So, for example, in his Moab 240, which is a 240-mile ultra marathon, he got to a point where his heart was starting to fail, and he used logic to realize, actually, no, I have to go to the hospital. But there were other points in that race where he used logic to be like, actually, no, I can continue here. My emotions telling me, no, I don't want to go on, but logically, actually, I can still go on. And I found it really quite actually inspiring that he went to hospital. You know, he stopped himself, because you kind of think of David Goggins as someone that, you know, would kind of run himself to the ground regardless of circumstance, right? He would die on the race, but actually he used logic in one of the examples that actually, no, I'm really like struggling here, my heart's not feeling good, I need to go to a hospital. And yeah, he went, and I found that refreshing, actually.
But finish the story.
Yeah, okay. Because
finish
he went
the story.
okay. Because he went to hospital,
yeah.
which was good, amazing. And then he recovered. He was in there for a day, or 24 hours or something. He come out, he recovered. And I've got to find the quotes. Maybe you can
I ain't got the quotes. I can give you the
the ad libs, give me the ad libs.
So
he was in bed with his partner, and he woke up, sprung up out of bed, and he just kept thinking about the race. And what did he say to himself? I don't
remember the words, bro. I don't even know. I don't know. You find it, but the story is sick itself.
The story's mad. He said something like, you can still do this. Like, you can still go and complete the race. I think I can't remember how long he had left, but he could go and still complete the race. And then he said to his partner, how long left until the race ends? And she said, you know, however long. And he said, there's still time. And she looked at him like, are you mad? But she realized that he was serious. So he had just come out of hospital. He felt better. And then he went and completed the race. Now, technically, it didn't count because he was disqualified because he left the race course, but he still went back. Even though it doesn't count, to him, that internal drive, he wanted to complete the race, knowing for himself. It didn't count towards anything, but he went on and completed the race. But there's I can't find it in my quotes, in my notes. Hopefully, I'll find it at some point. But he was saying something to himself when he woke up out of the bed. I can just imagine him waking up out of the bed being, stay hard, guys, stay hard.
That's funny. That was for me. It was like when I read that, because he had the perfect excuse.
Yeah.
Like, no one would have even thought any different of him. Like, he had the perfect reason. Like, I was running, I tried my best, ended up going to hospital, and that was it. We'll come back next year, you know. And even the fact that he didn't get a medal, he didn't get anything. He didn't even cross the finish line. He didn't even raise his hands when he hit the target. He just ran and just said, "Yeah, I've banked that. I've done that run. I'll see you next year." You know what I'm saying? So that was a funny story. Let me give another one as well that I liked. Yeah, and it was on that. Yeah, go on.
Quickly, I've got the quote.
Yeah.
Just quickly. I'm not gonna swear because we don't swear on here, really. But he woke up, in a voice in his head woke him up. You're not done yet, mother. You're not done yet, mother. Beep. Imagine waking up. You're like, you're not done yet, mother. Beep.
And then go to rate, and then go and just run another 100 miles or whatever.
Yeah, but whatever it was. But yeah,
the way this is another thing. Yeah, like, it's not so much about the book; it's more about the character of the man. So he'd obviously had it. Right, yeah, we've got to go back a little bit. Yeah. So he'd been on the trail. He's like a motivational speaker. Would you say? No, I don't know what you really call him. I wouldn't call him that, to be fair. But he's a public speaker. Let's just call it that way. So he's a public speaker. He's on the road. He's not really doing as many runs as he used to. And then he's older, X, Y, Z. Then he gets invited to do a 100-mile race. 100 miles are the ones he should do start for standard before, as we know. Now, when he's done that, he's done 100 miles. He was umming and ahhing whether to do it. He ended up doing it. He's done it, and he's looked around, and he's realized that, wow, these 100-mile races are now kind of the standard. There's a lot of people here. It's no longer, which is a good thing, and maybe, to be fair, he must be part of the reason why it's so popular, things like that. But when he first did the 100-mile races, I think it was the Hurt 100, was because he really wanted to push himself extra. He doesn't want to be, remember, he wants to be uncommon in the uncommon people. He doesn't want to be common. So it's like people that do the 100 miles, even though like it's something that it's a special thing to do, it's a big achievement, don't get me twisted at all. But he was like, okay, that's now become sort of normal. A lot of people do it. I again want to be uncommon against the uncommon people. So he started looking for a harder race. Hence why he found this, the Moab 240. So now it's gone from 100 meters or miles to 240 miles. Crazy, properly crazy. Then so that's just kind of shows the substance of the man, like the character. Where, because again, 100 miles. If someone told me they run 100 miles, big respect. Like I can't even fathom
even a marathon.
So it's like, yeah, exactly. Listen, these are big distances we're talking about. Like, so we're not downplaying that at all. But it's just like the standard of the person, his values or whatever he wants to do. He wants to push himself extra, because he could just sit on that and like, yeah, I'm the king of the 100-mile races. But no, he now went and became a student again, or had to really learn to do a 240-mile race.
Yeah.
Which was cool. Did you see the bit? I can't remember if it was that race. Yeah, no. It was the 100. I think it was when he did the 100-mile race, yeah. You know, he runs. So when he's running, he's got like a pacer with him who keeps pace. So you have a different pacer every, I don't know, 10 miles. They might change. So it's a fresh person who's keeping him, pushing him. So one of the races he's doing, I think it was the 100-mile race. I'm pretty sure it was. He was racing, and then I think it was like second or something. And then he couldn't find his pacer. So he's waiting for his pacer. His pacer hasn't come back. So he's run back to go and find his pacer again. Good qualities of the person. Gone back, found his pacer. He's like, his pacer, yeah, sorry, yeah, whatever the reason is, he can't run anymore.
And so he gave him food, I think. He gave him food.
Yeah, food and water, yeah. He looked after him, whatever. So now he's gone, they're walking to the finish line, essentially. I don't know how long they've got left. He's racing, then as he's racing, someone comes up to me like, David Goggins, I knew it was you. I told my son I was going to beat you, and guess what? I guess I caught you. And then he runs off. And then like, obviously, Goggins is in his head, he's thinking like, this isn't, but again, you're going to feel like, wow, this guy's kind of throwing shade on me a little bit. Like, he's throwing a bit of shade on me. But cool, whatever. Then him and his pacer look at each other. His pacer's like, go get him. That means so he goes and finds him. Obviously, he beats him and all that stuff. It's funny. The book was funny, man. Like, that made me busting up. Because as soon as it's like, that guy lit the switch in him straight away. Do you know what I mean? That voice in his head must have been going berserk at that moment in time.
Yeah. And you know what I like about that as well? Is because he ran past the guy and didn't say anything.
Yeah.
He just ran past him close enough that the guy could see him go past him and didn't say anything, just kept going. Yeah. So he just, if we use the word from our previous book review, taking souls. He just took his soul and just carried on going, man. And that was powerful. Like he used that fuel to drive him. And I think I want to touch on that briefly because, people have haters. People have...
Would you call that guy a hater, though? Would you call him a hater?
No, I wouldn't call him a hater. But people have, people do have haters in life, or people have people that are challenge them or trying to beat them or trying to beat them down. I would call that guy someone who's trying to beat him and trying to, not beat him down, but definitely trying to beat him. And this is going to happen in life. And the mindset that he had there was, just ignore him and let it bounce off me. These are bullets hitting me. I'm just going to take the bullets. Cool, you've thrown shade on me as you've walked past. But now I'm just going to go and beat you. And that's what he did. And I just love that mindset. He didn't need to engage. He didn't need to say anything when he went past him. He just got on with his life and his journey and let other people say what they want to say. And I love that, man. I just love that.
Yeah, no, it was funny, man. It was funny. That was a funny part. And again, it's like, that's just, again, I think with Dave Goggins, in this book, he kind of shows his development, and he refers to the different chapters as like, so he'll do the chapter, then there'll be an evolution. So evolution number 1, evolution number 2, X, Y, Z. So it'll be like, you see how he evolved through the kind of beginning of the book. Or no, went even from his last book to this one. Because I know I'm jumping right to the end, but there's a moment in there where he said the old him would have reacted in a different way and would be trying to take souls. we'll talk about that. Well, he wants to become when he's becoming a smoke jumper, basically, right? He was part of a smoke jumpers team, and his mentality was as such that he's going to try and bring everyone forward, bring everyone with him, as opposed to in the past, his mentality was, I'm going to take everyone's soul. I'm going to be the best here. I'm going to make sure like he would actually relish or take energy from when people have quit. But now this time, someone was kind of wobbling and they were going to quit, and the old him would have kind of said something or kind of disregarded them, whereas the new him is like, you know what? No, come on, you can do this. Like, I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna bring you forward. So that's definitely how he's evolved. You know, where I think he said when he did his interview for the smoke jumpers, he was like, listen, I promise you, if you put me into this, because of his age, they was a bit skeptical. So if you put me in this, I guarantee everyone in my team is gonna pass. And that's because he's gonna lead his team. He was definitely, you know, he spoke about the inspiration he had from someone in the past that kind of helped bring the best out of him. And he wanted to bring the best out of the people on his team, and they were a lot younger than him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could maybe dive in more into the smoke jumper stuff.
Yeah.
But I also want to just touch on some of the gems, man, because there are so many quotes and sections of this book that I was like, oh, that's hard hitting, man. That's a really nice reminder. And one that I've got written down here is, I know there are a lot of people who do not have the choice. They cannot run at all and wished like hell they could. So when he's running and feeling like quitting, he's like, whoa, there are a lot of people that wish they were in my position right now and they can't even run. And I can. So I'm going to keep going. Yeah. And I think we can take that with anything in our life. You know, there are lots of whatever your position in life, generally there's someone else that would really love to be in that position.
Yeah, right? Agreed.
You know, we can dive in deeper, but you get the point. And there are quotes like that throughout the book, man, that I just love, man.
Yeah, no, that's where, I mean, for me, I think the main thing you can take from this book is about resilience, and then also about evolving and changing over time. And there's a lot of key takeaways, but for me, the resilience factor, because I think to go through the stuff he went through in his childhood and even what he's had to experience through adulthood, and that's just him, but talking about yourself, myself, anyone that's watching this, people out there, everyone has to go through something, regardless of if you were born into a rich family, into a family that's not rich, into whichever country. There's people always going through stuff. And what really defines it, or what will be a big factor, determining factor as to how you come out of that situation, is actually going to be your mindset. And you know, how resilient are you? How susceptible are you to just give up? You know, going back to that example you spoke about with the rats experiment. How long can you keep going? How deep do you believe in yourself? When are you just going to give up? You know what I'm saying? So in the third chapter, you know, that was where it's like the mental life, because that's where everything creates. That's where everything begins in your mind. So I mean, so there's quite a lot of things in there. Like he's talking about the way, again, talking about evolutions. Before, in the first book, he spoke about his cookie jar. But the cookie jar, he said the cookie jar became stale because he didn't feel like he was a savage anymore. You know, he didn't feel like he was like an animal anymore. Because yes, you've got all these past, you know, the cookie jar mentality is you kind of, when you're feeling weak, you go back into your mental cookie jar and pick out an example of when you've been strong in the past. But he kind of felt as though they were too far behind, so it become stale. So you're no longer getting that momentum. So he kind of had to do new things. Hence why he took on these new runs and these new challenges he's taken on. And I think, again, that applies to everyone, because you can only kind of live off past victories for so long. You know what I mean? So until the point where it comes where, all right, you need to now start creating new memories. And it doesn't have to, and that doesn't have to be like David Goggins going and running 240 miles. It could be learning something new. It could be reconnecting with somebody. It could be building a relationship, or building a better relationship with someone in your family or friends. So, I mean, so there's different ways to do this, where you build on new experiences. So yeah, stuff like that, man. It's just, again, but it all comes from your mindset.
Yeah. I think as well, there's something that I want to touch on as well with regards to his childhood, because I think part of his childhood actually has helped him become the man that he is today. And he talks about his grandfather, Sergeant Jack, who he lived with when he ran away from his father, or him and his mum, ran away from his abusive father, which you can read more about in the first of his book, or listen to our first book review on that. But he talks about how he had his daily chores every single day that his grandfather had set him. He couldn't go and play out or whatever until he had done his chores, and he had to do them to a specific and set standard. And at the time he was doing these chores, he hated doing them until he started to actually get to a point where he was getting success from doing the chores and taking pride in it. And he would complete the chores, and his grandfather wouldn't even have to go and inspect because he knew that he would complete them up to a higher standard. And he's taken that mindset and that framework and applied it to his adult life. Just get it done. You know, it's not, regardless of what the day is, he had to do his chores every single day. If he was sick, if he wasn't feeling for it, if he was tired, it just needs to get done. And I just love that mindset, because there are lots of times we don't feel like doing stuff, but they need to get done. So we have to do it. And yeah, that, I think that childhood helped him in his adult life. He knows sometimes he doesn't want to go for his run, but he needs to get it done. And yeah, man, that mindset is just, I love it.
Yeah, no, I think with his granddad, he definitely imprinted on him from a young age. Like you said, having to, like, you've got a list, you've got responsibilities. And then what was funny in that section was, like, when he got to an age where he I think he moved out or something. They moved out. They were no longer living with his granddad, I think. But because he started to realize that, because he didn't have that routine, that proper good routine, it started to seep into other areas of his life. He started to become a different kind of person that he didn't actually like himself. So he realized, okay, what do I need to do? I need to go back and get that routine back. You know, he had to kind of reset. So he went back into his granddad, started doing the chores, you know, by choice. This was something that he used to hate doing. He's now gone back. He's now chosen and elected to go back and do it. But now he's done it. He's doing it by choice. So that was something that I saw, and I was like, you know what, I can understand, and maybe I can relate. You can relate to that sometimes. It's like, okay, I need to shake things up, or I need routine. You know, you wake up, make your bed, do whatever you need to do in the morning, do whatever, you start that routine. It sets off the day in the right way. And that was, and again, that was instilled in him from his granddad. And he speaks about his granddad. His granddad was like a big role model, a big part of his life growing up.
Yeah.
So that was, and it shows the importance of role models, man, of positive role models. Because growing from his dad's situation to his granddad, it's night and day.
Yeah.
Both hard people, like, hard environments, but it's different. It's not the same. You know what I mean? So I think that was definitely a big part of why he is the kind of person he is now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are so many things that we haven't touched on. There's so many things that we could talk about in this book. I'd recommend reading it. It's a great read. Is there anything specific you want to touch on before we go on to our difficulty rating and star rating?
Not really. Like, he speaks about he mentioned in the book, like, the tone of a warrior. And it says here, the tone of a warrior. So I take this as your self-talk, your personal self-talk. And it's like the tone of someone prepared to plunge deep inside their own soul to find the energy they need to keep up the fight and prevail. So for me, that's like, when you're feeling weak, are you whinging to yourself, or are you trying to do yourself up, or are you trying to look for solutions to the problems, or are you just having, being aware? So when I'm having my inner self-talk, what is my tone? It doesn't mean I'm talking positively, but it's like, what am I saying it from a whinging perspective? Am I saying it from a solution-focused perspective? Am I being logical about this? Do you see what I mean? So that was something that if we as people can kind of, it's because that's what we'll begin with. You can speak to yourself in that way, in a positive way, and in a way that actually drives some sort of positive outcome. That's gonna come out of you to other people and whatnot. So yeah, man. There's a lot, bro. There's a lot. We haven't even touched on half the things that I'd like to speak about. But tone of a warrior, just
I think I want to just I guess close on this part with two kind of quotes that he said. One was, while most people stop when they're tired, I stop when I'm done. So, we get tired, but you might not have finished the job. While most people stop when they're tired, I stop when I'm done. And, I, again, love that mindset. But also, this was one that I think hopefully people can take away and apply to themselves. And it's, most of us put limiting beliefs on ourselves. It's the ability to push through those beliefs. And so true. I think it's so true. Most of us put beliefs upon ourselves. Definitely myself, you know, back in the past, I've put limiting beliefs on myself, whether it's come to my business, you know, can I actually start a business, or can I actually grow a business? You know, these are fear things. Can I start an entrepreneurial network? You know, you put those limiting beliefs on yourself, but it's the ability to push through those. We all have limiting beliefs, but we must find a way to push through them. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, no, big up, man. It's true. It's true.
Big up, Goggins. So, difficulty rating before we go on to it. I think you're first. Yeah, let's.
You say so. Yeah, I'll give it a 1. I don't think it's
Okay.
hard to read at all.
That tells me your star rating. Your difficulty rating tells me your star rating.
I bet
in my head.
I bet it doesn't. I bet it doesn't. But
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, no, it wasn't hard to read.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna actually give this.
It's my selection.
You're gonna
No, go on. I'm just saying it's my selection. So it's
Yeah.
like I was very motivated to read this book, so that might be impacting my difficulty rating, but I didn't find it hard to read at all.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna give this a 2.5 because the chapters were long, man. The chapters were very long, or not very long, but they were long. Most books that we read maybe have breaks within the chapters. His chapters are, yeah, just boom, whole chapter. There's no breaks in the chapter really. So I kind of felt like I have to read a whole chapter.
Yeah, okay. Before you put the book down.
Before I put the book down, but yeah, kind of. So yeah, it wasn't a difficult read, but it wasn't an easy read. Definitely, we've definitely read easier books. We've definitely read harder books. So 2.5.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Star rating. Again, I'm gonna try and not let this conversation sway my vote, but you're first for your star rating.
My star rating, this for me, is a 4.5. It's not a 5. I was thinking about this a lot. I was like, it's not a 5. And maybe because I don't know, it's a 4.5. I can't really explain why, but that's just my choice.
Yeah, okay. So just for the viewers, the last book Mr. Fly gave Can't Hurt Me a 5. And this is 4.5, so slightly lower. And I've been swaying between two numbers, and that is a 4 and a 4.5. So I'm just gonna be awkward and go 4.25. And I think partly because maybe we're slightly immune to his harshness and his hard mentality. He's like, you know, stay hard, keep going, you know, mother beep, you know. And in the first book, it kind of was like new. It was kind of like we're hearing about his life, it was story, there's lots of things, it's kind of new. Whereas reading this, I kind of felt like, okay, I've already read, I already know that you're this guy. There was still so many gems in this, and this I did enjoy this book. It was still good. But the last time I read this book, I signed up. Sorry, the first book, I signed up for a boxing match. I was like, I need to do something like that's gonna challenge me. This book didn't get me to that point. You know, it didn't get me to the point where I feel like I need to do something crazy. So,
do you think that's because you're comparing it to the first one, just because it didn't?
I don't think because I'm comparing it to the first. I think it didn't catch me emotionally like the first one did. Okay. The first one caught me emotionally. So yeah. Anyway, I say all that to say 4.25. Yeah, cool. Well, next month's book, or the next book, or this month, this month's book, sorry. Why Motivating People Doesn't Work and What Does. Mr. Fly and I both run businesses, and I thought this would be a great book to read. About motivating people, understanding human psychology. I'm sure we'll both get value from it. I'm sure the viewers will get value from it. And with any luck, we should hopefully be recording this one in person. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe so you can be part of that journey. Yeah,
it's happening. It's happening.
It's happening. All right, you heard it there from the man. It's happening. Seals, dotted line. So yeah, remember, hit that like, support the thing, and watch our next book review, whatever's on the screen now. And yeah, peace and love.